Welcome to another cinematic journey with WorldWithWife, where we transform the classic Los Angeles to Santa Barbara road trip into an unforgettable visual guide. We're taking you along the breathtaking Pacific Coast Highway to uncover the secluded sands of Loon Point Beach, to the dramatic, hidden cliffs of Shoreline Park. We also bring you for luxury shopping at Camarillo Premium Outlets, uncover the rich history of Stearns Wharf and the Old Mission, and show you exactly where to find the best views in the city. Our journey begins on a cool February morning, about 12 degrees Celsius, as we leave Los Angeles and begin the scenic drive north along the legendary Pacific Coast Highway. At this hour, the road feels almost peaceful. About 90 minutes later, we reach a small coastal town called Summerlin, where our first stop waits, quietly just off the highway. The name, Loon Point Beach. Most people driving the highway don't even realize it's here. There's a small parking area, nothing flashy, no big signboards, just a short sandy path leading toward the ocean. The path itself is soft and sandy, almost like walking through a natural tunnel formed by beach grass and low shrubs. After just a minute of walking, the view suddenly opens up. A wide stretch of untouched coastline. The Pacific Ocean looks enormous here, deep blue and stretching endlessly to the horizon. In winter, the water is cold and incredibly clear. This beach is known locally as one of the quieter spots along this stretch of coast. We continue driving north for about 45 minutes until we arrive at one of the biggest shopping destinations in Southern California, Camarillo Premium Outlets. Located in the city of Camarillo, this outlet center sits just off Highway 101 and attracts millions of visitors every year. The complex covers roughly 160,000 square meters and includes over 160 designer stores. What makes this place special is the layout. Instead of a traditional mall, the outlets are designed like a Spanish-style village with open-air walkways, terracotta roofs, fountains, and palm trees everywhere. This is where people come to hunt for deals on luxury brands. We finally reached our real destination, Santa Barbara. After checking into our boutique hotel in Santa Barbara, we head straight to the waterfront. And the first place every visitor should see here is Stearns Wharf. This historic pier stretches into the Pacific Ocean and has become one of the most iconic landmarks in the entire city. What makes it unique is that you can actually drive onto the wharf itself. We're lucky enough to find parking right there. As we step out of the car, the salty ocean breeze immediately hits. The wharf was originally built in 1872 by a businessman named John P. Stearns, who wanted a place where large ships could dock to load goods and passengers. At the time, Santa Barbara was still a small coastal town, and this pier helped connect it to the rest of California's growing economy. Today, it's the oldest working wooden wharf in California. Walking along the wooden planks, the views are incredible. To one side, you see fishing boats gently rocking in the harbor. To the other side, the open Pacific stretches endlessly westward. Behind the city rise the dramatic Santa Ynez Mountains, which form a stunning backdrop. The wharf today is lined with restaurants, seafood grills, souvenir shops, and small cafes, where people sit outside watching boats drift in the harbor. Eventually, we leave the wharf on foot and begin walking along the waterfront road known as East Cabrillo Boulevard. Palm trees line the road. Across from us stretches a wide sandy beach, and the Pacific sparkles in the afternoon sun. This part of Santa Barbara feels incredibly elegant. Luxury beachfront hotels sit along the boulevard. Cyclists glide past along the bike path, and the entire area has a relaxed coastal energy. And after a few minutes, we turn toward the most famous street in the city, State Street. State Street runs straight through the heart of Santa Barbara, from the waterfront all the way toward the mountains. It's the city's main cultural and commercial center. And walking here is one of the best ways to understand Santa Barbara. As we stroll along the street, the first thing you notice is the architecture. Nearly every building follows the Spanish colonial revival style, with white stucco walls, red clay roof tiles, and beautiful arched doorways. And there's a reason for that. In 1925, a massive earthquake struck Santa Barbara and destroyed much of the downtown area. When the city rebuilt, local leaders made a bold decision. They would redesign the city in a unified architectural style, inspired by its Spanish colonial heritage. That's why today, Santa Barbara feels so cohesive and elegant. Walking along State Street, there's always something happening. Coffee shops buzzing with locals. Boutiques selling everything from surfwear to designer fashion. As we continue walking along State Street, the road gently slopes upward toward the mountains. Eventually, we reach a beautiful historic building, the Santa Barbara Station. This train station originally opened in 1902 as a depot for the Southern Pacific Railroad. Even today, it still operates as a stop for Amtrak trains. From here, travelers can ride scenic coastal routes connecting cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Luis Obispo. The station itself is charming, with its red-tiled roof and palm trees framing the platform. It's a reminder of a time when train travel was the main way people explored California's coastline. Pro travel tip: Santa Barbara is incredibly bike-friendly. Many visitors rent bicycles near the waterfront and ride along the coastal paths or through downtown. It's flat, easy, and one of the best ways to explore the city. After spending some time near the station, we begin walking back toward the ocean. Santa Barbara sits right in the middle of one of California's most famous wine regions, and that influence is everywhere in the city's food and drink scene. As we continue walking, it's a good moment to understand where Santa Barbara actually sits geographically. The city is located about 150 kilometers northwest of Los Angeles, along California's central coastline. It lies between the Pacific Ocean and the Santa Ynez Mountains, which creates a rare microclimate similar to the Mediterranean. This unique geography is one reason the city is often called the American Riviera. Some quick facts travelers should know. Population: about 90,000 residents. Metro population: around 450,000. City area: roughly 50 square kilometers. But the story of Santa Barbara goes much further back than its modern charm. Long before Spanish explorers arrived, the region was home to the Chumash, an indigenous people who lived along this coastline for thousands of years. The Spanish later established missions along the California coast in the late 1700s, including the famous Old Mission Santa Barbara, which we'll visit later in this journey. Back at Stearns Wharf, the afternoon light now paints the ocean in soft golden colors. In the summer, this pristine beach of Santa Barbara is packed, but in the cooler months, it's incredibly peaceful. And just as we walk along the railing again, we spot something interesting. A huge bird sitting right on the wooden rail. That is a brown pelican. They're a classic sight along the California coast and love hanging out on piers and wharves, where fishermen are active. Standing out on Stearns Wharf, one of the first things you notice is just how wide open the view feels. Because the pier stretches nearly 700 meters into the Pacific Ocean, you're far enough from the shore to see Santa Barbara from a completely different perspective. Looking back toward the city, the scenery is almost cinematic. Rows of palm trees line the waterfront along East Cabrillo Boulevard. We drove for another 10 minutes west of the city center to Shoreline Park. This park sits high above the ocean on a stretch of coastal cliffs, and many locals consider it one of the best viewpoints in Santa Barbara. The park itself runs along the bluff for almost 24 acres, offering wide grassy lawns and panoramic ocean views. But what really catches our attention is something tucked away at the corner of the park. A staircase. A steep staircase leading down toward the ocean. From the top, the view is breathtaking. Cliffs run along the shoreline below, waves crashing against the rocks as the Pacific swells roll in. We carefully start walking down the stairs. They're steep, but the view gets better with every step. At the bottom, we reach a rugged beach. Unlike the sandy beaches in town, this one is rocky and wild. Pebbles and stones cover the shoreline, and the cliffs rise dramatically above us. The water in February is icy cold, but the scenery feels almost untouched. Standing here, with the waves crashing against the rocks and the cliffs stretching along the coastline, it feels like we've discovered a completely different side of Santa Barbara. Our next stop takes us away from the ocean and into the historic heart of the city. We arrive at Old Mission Santa Barbara, often called the Queen of the Missions. This mission was founded in 1786 by Spanish Franciscan missionaries and became one of the most important religious centers in early California. The church sits on a small hill overlooking the city, surrounded by gardens and palm trees. Even from a distance, the architecture is stunning. The building features twin bell towers, white stucco walls, and classic terracotta roof tiles. A beautiful example of Spanish colonial design. When we arrive, a church service is already taking place inside, so we quietly explore the outside. The courtyard is peaceful. Fountains trickle softly in the background, and the famous rose garden spreads out in front of the mission. Inside the church, which visitors normally can tour, you'll find historic religious artwork, hand-painted murals, and one of the oldest altars in California. Perched on a gentle hill about 3 kilometers from the ocean, the mission overlooks the entire city. The church you see today was largely rebuilt in 1820, after an earthquake destroyed the earlier structure. The next morning, Santa Barbara wakes up under a blanket of coastal fog. The air feels crisp and quiet as we drive toward one of the city's most surprising landmarks, the beautiful Santa Barbara County Courthouse. Now, normally, when you hear the word courthouse, you probably imagine a plain government building. But this one is completely different. In fact, many travelers consider it one of the most beautiful courthouses in the United States. The building was completed in 1929, just a few years after the devastating 1925 Santa Barbara earthquake destroyed much of the city's downtown area. When Santa Barbara rebuilt, city planners made a bold decision. They wanted the entire city to follow a consistent architectural style inspired by its Spanish colonial past. The courthouse became one of the greatest examples of that vision. The architecture is known as Spanish Colonial Revival, and from the moment you see the building, it looks more like a Mediterranean palace than a government office. As we walk into the grounds, the atmosphere feels incredibly peaceful. The courthouse is surrounded by lush gardens and wide green lawns, carefully landscaped with palm trees, tropical plants, and colorful flowers. White stucco walls glow softly in the morning light. Red clay roof tiles sit above elegant arches and carved wooden balconies. And rising above everything is the courthouse clock tower, one of the most recognizable landmarks in Santa Barbara. Because it's early and foggy this morning, we're almost completely alone here. The mist drifts slowly through the palm trees, giving the entire place a calm and slightly mysterious feeling. This courthouse serves as the Superior Court of California for Santa Barbara County, handling legal cases and administrative functions for the region. Inside the courthouse, the highlight is the famous mural room, a historic courtroom decorated with enormous hand-painted murals that depict scenes from early California history. Another hidden gem here is the clock tower observation deck. Visitors can climb to the top for one of the best panoramic views in Santa Barbara. Our final stop before leaving Santa Barbara is the historic Our Lady of Sorrows Church. Located near downtown, this church has served the local Catholic community for many decades. The architecture follows the classic mission-style scene throughout Santa Barbara. White stucco walls, elegant arches, and a bell tower rising above the entrance. Inside, the atmosphere is quiet and reflective. The church feels simple, peaceful, and deeply connected to the city's Spanish heritage. After spending a few quiet moments inside, we step back outside. Our Santa Barbara journey is coming to an end. But this road trip isn't over yet. Because in the next episode, we're heading somewhere completely unexpected. A town that looks like it belongs in Europe. Windmills, Danish bakeries, half-timbered houses, and streets that feel like a slice of Denmark. Next week, we visit Solvang, a little piece of Denmark hidden in California. So, remember to subscribe.